how about we go ahead and get started, and then some more people might continue to join, but I can start off with some of the welcome and some of the administrative housekeeping details. So thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Kathy Nestein, and I'm with Nesta Challenges, and we are working with UN Habitat, with Bristol, with a number of partners out of Sweden on the Climate Smart Cities Challenge. And what we're here today specifically to talk about is the opportunity with Bristol. Feel free to use the chat to introduce yourself, say who you are and where you're joining from. You can also use the chat or the Q&A function throughout to ask questions. The webinar is being recorded, so it will be posted to our website later this week if you'd like to come back to it, or if you want to share it with colleagues who weren't able to join. Lauren, could you go to the next slide, please? So I'll run through the agenda, but we want to cover, I'll introduce my colleague Stephen Bland from UN Habitat in a minute, who will give an introduction to the Climate Smart Cities Challenge and talk about the overall purpose of this program and what we're looking to achieve. I'll talk through some of the bits about the timeline and the structure of the competition and how to enter. And then we'll hand it over to our colleagues from Bristol, who will be describing in more detail the challenge that the team has identified there and what we're looking for and what the hope is that innovators will put forward related to Bristol's challenge. Then I'll hand to my colleague Lauren, who will talk through the criteria, what we're looking for, and how to enter and how to apply to the challenge. And then we've got lots of time at the end for Q&A. So with that, Lauren, if you could go to the next slide, and then I'll hand over to Stephen.
Great, thanks a lot, Kathy, and thanks everyone for joining us. It's raining heavily here in Cape Town, so I hope it sounds to my ears very loud and tinny on my roof, but I hope you can hear me okay. As Kathy mentioned, I'm Stephen. I work for UN Habitat in our climate change team and also in our innovation unit. And it's been a real pleasure for UN Habitat as one of the partners to this challenge to work with Bristol and the others, all of the cities over the last few months to help and work with them to prepare for this point where we're now reaching out to you as innovators to join us in this journey. So a little bit about the Climate Smart Cities Challenge. It's an open innovation competition, which you may have come across before, sometimes also called challenge-driven innovation, where we're putting out a call to innovators to come and co-create solutions with local governments and their partners. We launched in November, but as I said, we had a long prep period where we've been working with the 4 cities to define exactly with them what their climate challenge is that they're looking for support with, so that we could put it out and launch it to you on the 3rd of November. And we want to basically work with these cities and work with you to help develop practical solutions that generate investments in cities to help reduce emissions in these cities, whilst creating a better future for all. And that's a really important part of our challenge, is that it's not just about the metrics of tons of emissions reduced, but about the social value of those emissions reductions that are generated as a result of the solutions that we hope you will be coming to the challenge with. Basically, once we have closed applications on the 5th of January, we will be going through an intensive selection process of potential innovators that have applied. And this will be done with a group of assessors. And then we will be selecting potential solutions providers to work with the cities. And one of the really important parts of our challenge is it's not a kind of winner takes all, where we appoint one winner, but rather there'll be a number of organizations that are invited to co-create solutions with our cities in a very exciting phase of the project called systems demonstration. Kathy's going to go into a bit more detail about the process and the timeline of all that in the next point, but I wanted to give you a quick flavor of what the challenge is all about. If you go to the next slide, please, Kathy. Just so you know, not all of them are here, and I certainly, as UN Habitat, we're speaking just as one partner in a large consortium of partners, and this is what makes the Climate Smart Cities Challenge, I think, so exciting and so potentially impactful as well. We have at the top all of the cities that are involved, and various institutions within those cities are part of this process, not just the local governments themselves. We have a number of organizing partners you see on your screen, and then a whole range of supporting partners as well who are working with us on specific parts of the challenge, reaching out to innovators, or indeed in Nest Challenge's case, helping to run the competition itself. So a huge variety, and I think this is one of the reasons why you should be very excited to apply to the challenges. We have this great variety of skills and expertise in the organizing partners that's making this a success. Next slide, please, Kathy. Briefly, in terms of the actual challenges, and obviously today we're here to talk about Bristol, but you may also be interested to hear about the other cities, because this is not a geographically limited challenge, so you don't have to be based in the city or in the country of the challenge owner to apply. In Bristol, obviously, we'll be hearing more about their challenge and desire to create a new model for delivering affordable zero carbon homes. I won't say any more about that because Bristol will tell you all about it. But interestingly, in Makinje Sabagabo in Uganda, it's a similar thematic focus, slightly different context, but very much similar aims to develop zero carbon and affordable homes. And then in Bogota in Colombia, we moved to the transport sector, a big challenge in Bogota with large numbers of lorries and vans moving through the city every day, creating not just greenhouse gas emissions, but serious air pollution impacts. And so their challenge is all around trying to improve freight mobility. And lastly, in Brazil, in Curitiba, we have a very interesting multi-sectoral, spatial-based challenge, which is looking at entire neighborhoods, real neighborhoods in the city that are looking for a suite of low carbon solutions. So as you can see, really exciting challenges. And I encourage you, if you haven't got the time to attend the other webinars, I think we still have Curitiba still to go. Or if you missed the other ones, head to our website and see if you might be interested in those as well. Kathy, over to you.
Great, thanks, Stephen. Yep, I'll just talk through the overview of the competition. Lauren, if you could go to the next, please. So give you a sense of the timing of this. We are, there's 5 main stages of the challenge. It actually launched last year when we ran an open call for cities around this time, which is how we found these 4 cities that we're working with now. So that was the first phase. And this phase that we're in now, as you can see, is the competition entry stage, the call for innovators, the call for companies, for SMEs, for startups, for anyone out there who's got a great idea, product, solution that they think would be relevant in this space. So we launched 2 weeks ago at the Expo in Dubai. Quite a lot of the activities around this are tied to the Expo in Dubai. So we launched at the Expo. We've got some events going on at the Expo over the next few months. And then the announcement of the finalists will also take place at the Expo on the 20th of January. So where the next big milestone that we're coming up to right now is the early entry deadline on the 5th of December. Entrants who get their get an eligible application in by that deadline will get the chance to actually meet with the city and do a bit of a soft pitch. So that's something we'd encourage you to keep in mind if you can get your entry in within the next few weeks. And then the final deadline for all entries is the 5th of January, so just after Christmas, in order to review those and make that announcement of who the finalists will be on the 20th of January. Then moving forward, once those finalists are in place, you'll get to work really closely with each of the cities in a co-creation period from February through May of next year. We'll go into more detail about what to expect in that phase, but I think that's a really keen opportunity for companies to get to do that direct engagement with the cities. Following that, there'll be a selection process where one team in each city will be selected to move forward to plan for system demonstrations and then to actually implement the system demonstrations next year. So this is on our website, so you can have a look, but that should give you an overview of where we are in the process. Next slide, please. So what's the reason to enter? Why would you want to be involved? I think some of the things that Stephen mentioned, highlights the compelling proposition. That we'll be looking to work with a pretty good number of finalists, up to 20 in each city. So if you're interested in the Bristol Challenge, we'll be looking for about 20 that would be selected to engage directly with the city in that co-creation period I mentioned. So during that phase, finalists could look forward to accessing some support with developing out their ideas. It operates a bit like an accelerator program at that time, getting to meet others who are also working on this, getting to form teams, getting to work closely with the city through some workshops, some webinars, some drop-in sessions, things like that, to more closely understand what the city is looking to solve, how your solution can slot into that, where are the relevant stakeholders in the city that you could be talking to during that time, how you could access data, that sort of a thing. And then during that time period, we'll be providing hands-on support, particularly through our partner Ignite Sweden. We'll be working with the finalists to help with matchmaking and developing teams, and helping you find partners who can deliver your products complementarily. And then the next stage then is that one team in each city, by team we mean kind of a consortium of a number of partners, a group of finalists would be selected to move forward to progress. Winning teams will get to share up to 400,000 euros. So that's across the 4 teams, one in each city will get to share that funding to further support with planning the system demonstrations. And the next slide, please. And with this, I'll hand it over to our colleagues in Bristol to talk specifically about their challenge. We've got Alan McLeod and Jessie Carter here with us today. So I'll hand it over to you both.
Thanks, Kathy. So my name is Jessie Carter and I'm representing the Bristol Housing Festival. And our organisation, along with Bristol One City and Bristol City Council, did the original application earlier this year to be a host city for the Climate Smart Cities Challenge. So we're thrilled to be at this stage where we're starting to engage innovators, and we really look forward to all the entries that are going to come in. And I'm just going to give a little summary based on this slide of what the challenge is, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail after that. So Bristol is currently facing a climate crisis, an ecological emergency, and also a housing crisis. We currently have 16,000 people on our housing waiting list and about 500 families in emergency accommodation. So the housing need is acute, and yet at the same time, we're trying to consider the climate crisis and the ecological crisis as well. And we really believe we need to consider all of these together if we're going to solve the crises and do it in a way that really benefits all of the residents. So we need to build all these homes, and yet a standard new home will produce some 150 tons of CO2 in the 25 years after it's built. So what we're looking for is how can we develop and scale new ways of delivering affordable and carbon neutral housing. So I'll just read the call to action here. We're looking for innovative business models, services, and/or products that can help shape a new housing development appraisal and financing model that enables the development of affordable zero carbon new homes in the city starting in 2023. So if we just jump to the next slide, I'll explain a bit more about how we got there. The challenge originally, they asked us to put forward a problem to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our city. But at the Housing Festival and at the city office as well, we realized that there are multiple intersecting challenges in our city. And so we knew that we wanted to focus on housing, but to consider all of the challenges together. And most of the time when you think about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, our minds jump to technology. We think, oh, we need to develop technology to be able to reach our climate targets and our ecology targets. But actually, in the UK right now, we already have all the technology we could possibly need to build zero carbon homes, affordable homes, and to even retrofit all of our existing housing stock. It's not actually a problem of technology. The problem is cost and viability. And during our research and engagement phase, as part of the preparation for putting together the challenge brief, we deliberately spoke to developers, we spoke to climate experts, to ecology experts, to financiers and to lawyers, and we asked them, why is it that this technology isn't implemented in cities? And the unanimous answer was because it's too expensive and it's not actually viable for the stakeholders. So we realized there's actually a really unique opportunity to look at the real problem, which I believe is a problem for many cities around the world. How do we make this green technology viable? And that's why we want to focus on the financial model that is used to deliver housing. So at the moment, development is based on capital cost and return only, immediate capital cost and return. And we're wondering if we can consider different ways to rethink value in this context. So some of this work's already been done by the Bristol social value policy, where they're looking at, how can we move beyond this immediate capital cost and return? Because even though these houses are more expensive, you could argue that they're much better value when you consider the future cost of residents, when you consider the cost to the planet. How can we harness some of that value and put it back into that kind of initial transaction? So we don't have the answers for that. We're looking for the answers. We're hoping that you can innovate to find us those answers. But we really do believe that this is the key to finding solutions that cut across all of these crises at once. So I'm going to hand over to Alan, and he's going to explain a little bit more about the challenge.
Yeah, thank you, Jessie. If we could have the next slide. So what we're looking for is proposals that help to demonstrate some of those key points that Jessie has just mentioned. We're looking for innovative ideas in the development and financing models for the construction of new homes. So the work is primarily focused on that house building element, particularly in urban brownfield sites. And these homes need to be zero carbon. They need to demonstrate biodiversity, that point about the ecological emergency that we're also facing. They need to have a biodiversity net gain. They need to be commercially viable. They need to evidence best value and be aware of and engage with Bristol's communities in the planning process. So we're really keen that all of those things are key in any proposal that comes in for Bristol. And within that, there's a variety of ways that can happen. And we're aware that maybe not every proposal will cover all the bases or will fully, completely solve the solution, but we would like competitive solutions to address one or more of the following areas around planning and design, financing and investment, housing and construction or manufacturing. And then also, as Jessie was just talking about, the social value quantification, how we ensure that the value that is gained for the city and for the citizens is actually quantified in the financial output of the home. And so the ultimate aspiration is that the new build model will then be tested on a brownfield site in Bristol, and that actually some of the learnings that we take from this can be applied to some of the financial models around retrofit as well, so that we can ensure that as a city we're able to meet our net zero carbon target, because we recognize that retrofit is a really large part of that as well. So we want to be learning from this, not only in the building of new homes, but also then hopefully in the longer term, and that's outside the scope of this challenge, but applying some of the learnings from this to retrofit in the city. So next slide, please, Lauren. And in terms of what we can provide, one of the things that we've been championing in Bristol is a collaborative way of working. And so as a city, we have what we call our one city approach, where we bring together a number of organizations and stakeholders to work together on the delivery on some of these large systemic challenges. And so a large part of what we are offering is a really well-networked city and the opportunities to access some of those relevant city stakeholders. So one of the big offers is the introductions to the relevant stakeholders in the city already working in this space, both from community and business perspectives. We plan to hold regular Q&A sessions with city leaders and partners around the specific topics of this challenge. We're also looking to hold workshops and presentations to further detail the challenge. So that will be happening in the new year once we've selected the finalists. And then that partnership working provides a great inroad to data sources that might be harder to access from partners outside of the council, as well as then our foot in the council and our work in the council as well. So as a city and as the team that I work for, the city office, we are here to support finalists with really well networked city and a variety of contacts, as well as good data, both from existing council sources as well as partners within the city. Thanks, Lauren. That's all from me.
Great, thank you so much, Alan. So now I'll just go into a little bit more detail around what we're looking for in terms of applications and who should apply. As previously mentioned by Jessie and Alan, we're looking for a variety of proposals that can contribute to solving the challenges. that were mentioned. And these applications can come from a variety of innovators, but just a few that are listed on the slides: so technologists, SMEs, startups, developers, finance experts, and more. And the finalists will work with those city stakeholders to fine tune their proposal, adapt to the city's mission, and form relationships with partners and stakeholders through introductions made by the city. In terms of criteria to be eligible to apply, we're asking for businesses, charities, community groups, educational institutions, sole traders or public bodies. Again, you don't have to be based in Bristol. You can be anywhere. You can be based from anywhere around the world, but we just ask that your application clearly responds to the challenge that was outlined by Alan and Jesse, but that you can also find more detail about in the challenge briefs on our website. And we're also asking for separate applications for each organization that applies. And then in terms of criteria, all applications will be assessed based on the same criteria. So that starts with impact and innovation. So does your solution have the potential to achieve the desired impact? Concept viability. So have you presented a robust concept that is ready to be demonstrated in real world environments? We'll be looking at the technical feasibility of your solution and the feasibility of your business model. Have you considered user and customer engagements and the affordability of your solution? Thirdly, collaboration potential. So are you well suited to join a team, and are you willing to work closely with stakeholders and as well as the cities to kind of support their vision? And then lastly, capability. So do you have the track record to deliver your solution, and do you have kind of the relevant experience and expertise within your team to help deliver that and to support that? So how to apply. So as mentioned by Kathy earlier, deadline is the 5th of January, 2022 via the online application portal, also known as Submittable, which you can access through our website. We also, again, have an early application deadline for the 5th of December, and that kind of gives you the opportunity to soft pitch directly to the cities. So we're highly recommending individuals or organizations who want to apply to participate in that. So you have that chance to kind of interact with cities. And then again, more information is available on our website through our FAQs, or you can contact us at climatesmart@citieschallenge.org, which is on the slide there. So yeah, that brings us at the end of the presentation. So we'll kind of open it now up to questions and answers. I can see there's a little bit more. Oh, it was Kathy in the chat. But now I'll welcome you to kind of submit your questions in the chat. And yeah, maybe I'll give everyone a few minutes to kind of come up with some questions and submit them. So we have a question in the chat from Jonathan. So is the evaluation process similar to that used by Innovate UK? I'm not familiar with what was used for Innovate UK, but Kathy, were you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. So Jonathan, I'd encourage you to have a look at the website to look at the selection criteria. Lauren described it, briefly earlier, is on one of the slides, but we've got 4 main criteria that we're looking for, and each of the criteria has sub-criteria. So it's not connected to the Innovate UK process. It's kind of it is a different process. So to have a look at that criteria and the application form as well, you can have a look at that on our site. As Lauren said, you apply through the online portal, but we've got a PDF of the application that you can download and take a look at it, so you can see everything you need to enter and start to put together your responses. It's a really straightforward application. It's not like a typical grant application would be. given that it's an open innovation competition, and we're really looking for, the ideas that you have more than anything. So the application is basically 10 questions, and they're word limited to about 250 words per each question. And each question that in the application maps to the different criterion. So you can sort of see what you'll be asked to describe and how that would be assessed by the judges. We didn't quite go through the judging process, but I can talk about that too. It's an assessment process where every application will get read by a pool of assessors who are really familiar with the criteria and with what we're looking for. And then we'll go to a shortlisting process, and the applications that score highest through the assessment will go through a review from the Climate Smart Cities Challenge partners, as well as leadership of Bristol and the team represented here today, to determine how well an application meets the criteria. So does that help? Please just shout, I guess, in the chat if you want to clarify anything else.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kathy. So we've got 2 more questions. One from Elle. So do you have a one-pager explaining exactly what this challenge is? The 48-page brief is a lot to digest to decide who it's relevant for. So that's a good point, Elle. I think I'm not sure, but Alan, Jesse, Kathy, please interrupt me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's a one-pager, but I'll kind of hand it over to you.
I'd say the webpage that I've dropped into there, Climate Smart Cities Challenge, the /Bristol page. On the webpage, it has kind of the key information is pulled out. And then the brief goes into a lot more detail. Jesse, Alan, anything else you'd want to add?
I'd just say maybe the section 2 of the brief is probably the one to skim. The other sections sort of have a lot of technical information, but that's where you can get kind of the most succinct information about the challenge itself.
Yeah, most of the rest of the brief covers the core, the wider context of Bristol for anyone outside the city who maybe hasn't got as much of a knowledge of local policy and local action in Bristol. And so that sets out the wider context, the rest of the brief. But as Jesse said, section 2.
Okay, great, thank you. And Elle, if you have any more questions regarding your application, just please do reach out to us by email, and we'll try and direct you to the cities and trying to get your questions answered. And then one from Harry. So just to clarify, whatever solution was proposed as part of the application, that would then be tested on some BCC brownfield sites, as well as the asset team's retrofit of existing council stock. So Alan, I'm not sure if you wanted to take that one.
So we're working with the council to identify some potential sites. We haven't locked in any sites as yet, and it would all have to go through the planning process and have to be approved through that normally, as any development would. But the idea would be to try and use some of the sites that we have as a local council to work through that. And then in terms of the retrofit, that's a different question and not really directly related to the challenge, because the focus of the challenge is on the new homes. But the idea would be that hopefully by developing a financial model around this that delivers new low carbon homes or net zero homes, we would then unlock more engagement with the retrofit work across the city and potentially find new routes to retrofitting housing in the city as well. So the retrofit piece is separate to this. The challenge itself is focused on new homes. Does that answer the question? I hope it does.
Harry, please do let us know in the chat if you need any further clarification. Okay, so we have one in the Q&A function from Anonymous. So I would like to understand more depth of explanation around the reasons why the technology to solve the crisis isn't considered viable by stakeholders, and how far the city is prepared to go in terms of working with new alternative economic paradigms approaches more aligned with planetary and human health. Thank you. So Jesse, did you want to take that one? I know you were talking about some of the technologies.
Yeah, so It's quite a complex question, I suppose. We did we ran a focus group with developers and various other stakeholders, and it's just simply too expensive. The technology is too expensive to make it viable for them. They did have quite a few sort of sub reasons for that, and I think we're going to just have to see what models come forward, honestly. But there is definitely commitment there to see a different model put forward that can solve some of those challenges. I think that's in the best interest of everybody, and everybody does recognize that. If you had anything to add to that, Alan.
No, not really. I think it's the reason that we've written that in is from listening to experts in the city who are working on this on a daily basis. So property developers and financiers and housing experts who are doing this. And our understanding from them was that at the moment, the delivery of new net zero homes is possible, and the delivery of affordable homes is possible, but combining the two, which is what we're looking at here, is the challenge, because making those net carbon homes affordable as well as low carbon is the challenge, because often the technology or the requirements or the ways that you deliver that are too expensive to implement and then still be in an affordable, so that a developer can have the profit margin that they need to be able to justify a development. And so that's the reasoning that we took from those experts on this. And I think the reason we've opened up this challenge is to do exactly that, to work with new approaches and ideas to try and exactly tackle those planetary issues and human health. So the whole point of us doing this challenge is to do exactly that. So I think we're really interested in any applications that do come in on that, and that will hopefully then begin to unpick some of these issues.
Okay, great. I hope that answers your question, but if you need any clarification, please just let us know. So we don't have any more. Oh, we have a comment in the chat from Maddie. So good to pinpoint the barrier to progress, that is the profit motive. So I'll just give everyone a few more minutes if they have any last minute questions. But if there aren't any, we'll assume that our presentation was quite comprehensive and we've answered all your questions. But yes, I'll give everyone a few more minutes.
I also dropped into there. There's a Twitter and LinkedIn profile specifically for this challenge that you can follow if you're not already. And we're updating the FAQ section on our website weekly too, with questions that come in through webinars like this or just through the email. So you can check back as well to see those. So some people might be dropping off. I don't know if Stephen, if you had anything else you want to add from you and Habitat's perspective, or anything else, Jesse or Alan from the city.
No, I think just, I mean, Jonathan has started a little conversation there in the chat by saying that he's very interested in collaborating with others. And so I would just say, if you have further questions for us, or you want to, I don't know, Kathy, if we can find a way to post something like Jonathan's message somewhere on our social media so that others are aware of, others that may wish to collaborate together in an application. That's always something we might be able to do to help Jonathan reach others that are thinking about or applying. But otherwise, just reach out to us for anything you need, and we'd be happy to support you further.
Yeah, I think from our end, from Bristol, from the city office perspective, I think that's everything from us. But if we are able to do something like Stephen's been talking about, that would be great.
Oh, there is one more question in the Q&A, Lauren. I don't know if you saw that.
Okay, yeah, we have one more question. So the info application doc is substantial. Is there support for groups, particularly community-led, voluntary, to write our applications within this short deadline? Kathy, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we don't have any kind of built-in sort of support functions. The questions are pretty short. We're not looking for backup evidence. You don't have to submit kind of any appendices or drawings or data or things like that. So we did try to keep the application as short as possible. So I think probably the best kind of support we could offer, though, is that if you want to come to a drop-in session, we're setting up some drop-in sessions over the next couple of weeks. If people want to come in for like some quick Q&A to clarify some of the questions, things like that, we could probably help with that. But we don't really have any kind of like writing support available within this.
So Jonathan, you should be able to find more information on the drop-in sessions on our website. I don't believe they've been added yet, but any information on upcoming drop-in sessions will be there, and on our social media as well. Well, if there's no other questions, I will leave it at that and close the session, but you are welcome to email us if you have any more questions after this webinar. This webinar will also be posted on our website at the end of the week or early next week if someone you know wasn't able to make it. But thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate your questions and for engaging with us today, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.